Sirui have just launched a brand new set of sharp yet relatively inexpensive t1.4 cinema lenses, and they're called the Vision Prime ones. And these lenses are great, but the absolute highlight in my opinion is that these are probably the first budget cinema lenses ever that also have fully interchangeable mounts. So that allows you to use them on RF mount, Z mount, L mount, or even E mount. So let's check these lenses out. And these are the Vision Prime ones. They are fully manual cinema lenses, so no autofocus here. They are designed for use on full frame cameras, and Sirui have initially released a 24mm, a 35 and a 50mm prime versions of these lenses, and they have sent me all three of them to check out. They all have a really fast t1.4 max aperture, and they have a really nice, solid, full metal premium feeling build. The lenses also have a really nice 270-degree focus throw, which allows for precise focusing, which is really important when you're shooting at those shallow apertures that these lenses allow. All of these lenses also weigh approximately 600 grams each, and they are so nice and light to use. And the overall design of these lenses also pretty much match identically between them. So that's great when you're rigged up and you need to swap them out, whether on a gimbal or any other kind of rig. They also all share a 67mm front filter thread, and the lenses are available in either black or a metal grey like I have here. They also have a weather sealing gasket at the mount, which is nice and not at all common on third-party cinema lenses at this kind of price. Right now, you can pick up the full set of these lenses for $1,599, which includes this really cool blue flight case. You get the tools to change the mounts, and also every lens mount that is compatible also comes in the case. But you can also, of course, buy the lenses individually for just $549 right now. As I said earlier, the highlight, I think, of these lenses is definitely that interchangeable lens mount. And I know that this is a thing on more expensive cinema lenses, but this is, I think, the first time I have seen this on more budget cinema glass. And it is so easy to swap out these lens mounts too. It's just a case of unscrewing a couple of small screws, taking off this small lens mount and placing on a different mount, which could be Canon RF, Sony E, Leica L, or Nikon Z. Just put those couple of screws back in and you're good to go. And luckily the mounts only go back in one way, so you really cannot get this process wrong at all. Just make sure you do it in a nice, clean, dust-free environment. And I think this is really great for a couple of reasons. It's obviously nice for anybody who works with different camera systems, so it means that you can use them across all of them. And also I can lend these out to friends who might, say, shoot on a Sony or Lumix camera. Again, I really love to see this, and I hope that more lens companies follow suit in the future. And I'd love to see Sirui bring this to autofocus lenses, although I'm sure that's much more difficult to achieve. So as great as everything is so far, it's all a bit pointless if these lenses don't perform well. And although I've always personally had good experiences with Sirui offerings, I am aware that they can be a little bit hit or miss, so I was excited to find out how these lenses perform. And so far I've had the opportunity to try them on a bunch of RF cameras, from my R5 Mark II to the Canon C80, and in a whole different range of shooting situations. And honestly, I was shocked by how good these lenses look. I would say that the overall rendering is pretty clean. There's not like a ton of character with these cinema lenses, but images out of these lenses are always really sharp, even when wide open. I do think they lean a little bit on the warmer side, but personally I also like that. I tend to warm up my video clips anyway. The footage looked great and it was really easy to focus thanks to that smooth focus ring, and the results are always really nice and contrasty with really nice, consistent, vibrant colors across any of these lenses. They all have a nice, consistent look and match up well. The bokeh looks great as well, thanks to that max t1.4 aperture. You're going to get really nice out of focus backgrounds and a lot of subject separation from these prime lenses. My favourite was the 35 for its versatility, and I used it for some wedding content recently, just to test it out, and I really like the results. It reminded me of my 35mm 1.4 VCM prime, and I actually put these two side by side just to see how they compared. And yeah, they have a surprisingly similar look. And if you zoom in, you can see that the sharpness is not far off as well. They get pretty close to this really expensive Canon L lens. Yeah, I did notice like a little bit of chromatic aberration and a bit of vignette with these lenses, but generally everything looks good and nothing stood out as sort of any really bad optical imperfections. If we dive into image quality a little bit more, the first thing I definitely did notice though and wanted to mention when using these lenses was flaring. These lenses seem to flare quite a bit, and when they do suffer from a little bit of a drop in contrast, especially when you're shooting somebody backlit. Flaring is of course quite subjective really, so this might be to your taste. I don't mind it too much, but it is definitely something that I had to be aware of in certain shooting circumstances. All right, let's look at some test charts to see what sharpness is like. Taking a quick look at the chart here, first on the 24mm Sirui prime, you'll see some vignette wide open at t1.4, and that clears up pretty nicely by t2.8, and that is the story with all of these Sirui prime lenses. Zooming in, the 24 at t1.4 centrally is already really good, but is near perfect once stepped down to t2.8. The corners at t1.4 are also not too bad at all, but a bit softer than the center, but again, become excellent by t2.8. Now onto the 35mm VP1, where centrally it looks good, wide open, but there's a big improvement by stepping it down to t2.8, where then it becomes razor sharp. Corners are a little soft, wide open, with a bit of improvement, mainly to vignette and contrast at t2.8. Now onto the 50mm VP1 prime, which looks good wide open in the center, but contrast and sharpness improves quite a bit by t2.8. The corners on the 50mm prime at t1.4 are pretty soft, wide open though, but they do sharpen up nicely by t2.8. So yeah, sharpness is actually pretty impressive considering the cost of these lenses. Wide open at t1.4, they're all pretty great in the center for sure, and although the corners aren't perfect, maybe a little bit soft on some of the lenses, they all sharpen up very nicely by t2.8, which for me personally, that's generally where the aperture or the t-stop that I like to shoot video at anyway. I looked at focus breathing too, and the 24 and the 35 do a really great job in this department with very little visible focus breathing at all, whereas the 50 does breathe a little bit, but still not that noticeable and a great result nonetheless. I also didn't notice much barrel distortion with any of these primes, so overall they seem relatively well corrected. So who are the Vision Prime ones for? Well, I think that these lenses are a great option, obviously, for budget filmmakers, whether it's going to be for narrative work, wedding videography, music videos, or corporate videos, documentaries, anything like that. These lenses are going to be really hard to beat when you consider the cost to image quality ratio. They're going to be really useful in low light situations too, thanks to that fast t1.4 aperture. Sure, they're not going to replace my 1.4 Canon VCM primes, but for around a third of a price, for budget filmmakers, this might be the closest you're going to get to that look without spending a whole lot more. It would be nice if Sirui expanded the line a little bit in the future and added something like a 16mm or a 20mm prime, as well as definitely an 85mm prime. That would be great. So to conclude, I can really only applaud Sirui for these lenses. They offer really good image quality and great build in a low cost package, which are not only really versatile because of their wide t1.4 aperture, but also because of that interchangeable lens mount that will allow you to use them across all of the major camera systems. Personally, out of the three, for me, the 35mm is the one to get, but as a set of free lenses, this is a great setup for new budget filmmakers, and you can get the full set right now for $1,599. And also you can of course buy them individually as well, right now for $549. And that might be an early bird price, so keep an eye on that because it may change in the future. And Sirui was kind enough to give me a discount code, so check out the links in the description if you want to learn more. So what do you think of these new Vision Prime 1 cinema lenses from Sirui? Let me know down in the comments, and also let me know if you want to see me compare these lenses to any other budget cinema glass or any other lenses in general. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks to Sirui for sending these out, and I'll see you all in the next one.